Hello and welcome back to Underdog Investing. So today I'd like to talk about Virgin Galactic. And firstly, I want to go through very briefly what the company is and what they do. And then I'd like to talk you through some of their most recent updates on their Virgin Galactic Twitter page and talk you through my thoughts on these tweets. And finally, I'd like to finish off with the stock price and why I think we can reach $100 within the near future. Before I jump into the video, I'll be grateful if you could smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. So starting with what the company is, the way I'd like to divide it is into short term and long term. So in the short term, I'm looking at space tourism industry. In the long term, I'm looking more at hypersonic travel as a way to generate revenue. But today we're just going to focus on the short term and the space tourism industry. So what they do is they use a mothership, which they call the VMS Eve, to carry a rocket into mid-air. And this rocket they call the Spaceship 2. And what happens is mid-air, this rocket detaches from the mothership and it goes by itself into suborbit, carrying passengers with it. And this is their space tourism play. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, they actually had a test flight back in December and it didn't go quite to plan. If we have a look at their tweet on the 7th of December, you can see that what happened was the mothership and the rocket actually went to mid-air and managed to detach from each other. But at that point, there was an issue with the onboard computer, which caused a halt in the ignition of the rocket motor. Now, they had to abort the mission at that point, and thankfully, both the mothership as well as the rocket managed to land safely back to Earth. So what this tweet basically says is that they were working on the issue, and they'll let us know once they've managed to fix the issue, and they'll talk about flight windows once they've managed to fix the issue. But since that actual tweet on the 7th of January, we haven't heard anything from them, and that is up until yesterday. So if we look at yesterday's tweet, so this was 23 hours ago, you can see our mothership VMS Eve will be conducting a flight from Spaceport America, New Mexico, today and another tomorrow. Today's pilots will be CJ Sturkow and Dave McKay. They will be using VMS Eve to simulate Spaceship 2 Unity's glide and approach to land phase. So the first thing to note is that this is not actually a repeat of the test flight back in December. So it looks like we're only using the VMS Eve to simulate the Spaceship 2, and we're actually just testing the landing phase. So I've actually got a few things I want to talk about this tweet. The first one is I've got a few concerns. Firstly, I'm not quite sure why they're actually doing this test. So why they're actually testing the landing of Spaceship 2. Because as we've just mentioned, from December, the issue was quite clear. It was a problem with the onboard computer and the ignition. So I'm not sure why they're testing the landing of the Spaceship 2 when there was no mention about an issue regarding this specific part of the flight. The second point I wanted to mention is that I'm unsure as to why they're using the VMS Eve to simulate the Spaceship 2. If they wanted to check the landing of the Spaceship 2, why not use the Spaceship 2? So these are the two main questions that I had, and if anyone has any answers or is able to clarify, I'd be very grateful if you can do that in the comment section down below so I would have a better understanding of this, as well as anyone who's watching the video and has similar questions. But I have taken some positives from this tweet as well. So the main thing is that we can see that they're taking their time with the test flight, and I mean that in a positive way. So I think Virgin Galactic understand that they've already had a failed test flight in December, and if worst case scenario, if they have a second failed test flight, that will be 2 consecutive failed test flights in a row, and that will really negatively impact this company. So it seems like they're taking every step necessary to optimize their chances of a successful test flight. So I see that as a positive thing, and I think that slow and steady always wins a race. So you can see that if we have a look up here, they've actually had one of the flights yesterday, so 17 hours ago. They've actually put out a video, watch as our mothership VMS Eve lands at Spaceport America, so New Mexico today. It was a beautiful day for flying. So the first one was successful. And we've literally just had a tweet about 21 minutes ago. Our mothership VMS Eve is prepared for another routine flight. Today's pilots will be Kelly Latimer and Mike Such Masucci. our pilots will be completing some routine proficiency checks and practicing in-flight maneuvers. So it sounds like they're ready for the next one, which is going to happen very soon, and hopefully this will be successful as well. So I'd like to move on to the stock price now. Let's have a look. So as you can see, literally 20 minutes ago, we had this tweet regarding this second landing test, and literally the stock has reacted very positively to it. So despite the market as overall being negative, we actually are at around $34 now, which is very good. But I wanted to focus a bit more on the longer term. So if we have a look at the 6-month chart, you can see that we had kind of two main rallies. The first one starting around November, and it took us about 1 month to double the share price. And if we have a look more recently, this more recent rally took us about a month again, but this time we had about a 40% increase in the stock price. So same time period, but a slower increase. And to me, that's very bullish. I always prefer a more steady rise in the stock price rather than a very quick rally. The other thing I wanted to talk about is we've actually managed to reach the December share price levels without any news regarding the actual test flight. So the main reason why we've seen this rally was because of the ARK Invest saying they're going to open a fund for space exploration. So that leads me on to the 5 next catalysts, which I think would take the stock price to $100+. So the first one is the flight window announcement. And I think this flight window announcement will easily bring the stock price up to about $40 this time around. The second thing would be a successful test flight. And from the looks of it, I think the favors are with us, or with them having a successful test flight. And I think this can easily take the stock to $50 to $55. The third thing is the ARK X edition, which should happen at some point around late March, early April. And I think this could potentially take the stock price from about $55 to $65. And the fourth thing would be the second successful test flight. If we have a first successful test flight, it's most likely we're going to have a second successful test flight, because they're basically the same flight. And I think this is easily going to take the stock from $70 to $80. And finally, we're going to have the Richard Branson flight, which is really going to be a marketing genius move, and it's really going to take the stock to $100 plus easily, I think. And at that point, we're actually going to be operational, so we're actually going to start looking at making actual money. And yeah, so I think a stock price of 100 plus at that point would be justified. And personally, I think we can reach that within 2021. So anyone who's holding the stock, I mean, personally, I'm going to continue to hold it, and I think we're going to see great things in the future. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below as to what you're planning to do. But as we can see, the stock price is actually doing quite well at the moment, especially with the recent news just half an hour ago. So that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, I'd be grateful if you can smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, I'd love to hear your comments your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you found that useful in any way, please share the video. Thank you very much.